Hello guys, it's me, Blue. Welcome or welcome back to BnB Anime Podcast with my co-host,
I'm Brad. Hi.
Brad. The other
How are
me.
you?
I'm doing really, really well. I had my hair done today, so I'm feeling all fresh and fancy.
Oh, super fancy. Have
Super
you even posted
fancy.
pictures yet? Because I have seen zero.
I did, actually. Somebody doesn't follow my Instagram story.
I do, but not gonna lie, I took a nap right before recording this episode, so whenever you messaged me saying, hey, I'm almost home, I was like, I should probably wake up.
I should probably get it. Yeah, no, it is on my Instagram story right now. Shameless plug. If you follow me on Instagram, you can do so at Blue Lavender STM. Lavender with an A and not an E. If you want to follow Brad, he is at Brad Carter Gaming on Instagram as well.
And then we also have the official BnB Anime Instagram set up.
It's
at
brand
BnB
new.
Anime.
It's brand new. And you can also follow it at the same tag on Twitter as well. Shameless promo.
Look at that. Hair looks very good.
Oh, thank you. For those who are listening and obviously can't see, and my story has disappeared, it is brown from the roots and then blue on the ends. My hairstylist is actually going to Japan for a year at the end of the month, so I had to have something that is going to grow out nicely while she is in Japan, although I am going to go see her when I am in Japan in July, because we're going to go hopefully catch some Olympic Games together if, you know, the whole world isn't run over by the coronavirus by then, but, like, it should be fine. And hopefully we'll go catch the Olympic Games together, but if not, we're going to go to a Star Festival that's going on in the summer. We're going to eat tons of peaches. It's going to be a great time.
I'm not jealous. Not jealous in the slightest. I'm not angry. I would never be angry.
No, but, you know, I'm going to be just as jealous when you get to go during Sakura season next year in 2021.
So excited.
I know, yeah. I wish I could go during Sakura season as well, but I've heard the autumn in Japan is absolutely spectacular as well, and like all of the autumn flavors of all of the foods and stuff that they do is supposedly fantastic.
Perhaps that should be group trip for 2022.
Group trip 2022. Let's go in October. Halloween in Japan.
Ooh, because who doesn't need an excuse to cosplay?
Oh, right, yeah. Let's just... all of the costumes. Every single one of them.
Yes, all
stacked
of them.
on top of
100%.
each other. Yeah.
That's gonna be hot.
I'm still trying to persuade Brad to, you, obviously, but talking to the viewer, I'm still trying to persuade him to be Dobby as a cosplay. I want him to wear a giant, like, sack, and a sock, and just be Dobby. I think it would be hilarious.
You know, I'm totally down at some point. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, you need to.
I see no reason not to. However, on the flip side of that, though, the other thing you're trying to get me dressed as, that's not happening.
What, the woman dressed in drag?
Yes.
I want you to dress in drag. I think you would make a very pretty lady.
I'm going to be so pretty.
So pretty.
That will eventually happen should I ever hit 250 followers on Twitch.
You will do, and then you'll have to dress in drag for an entire stream.
However, your ultimate goal of getting that to happen for the Last of Us stream is going to fail miserably.
You never know. You never know. Or you might just, like, become a meme or something and get a load of followers.
Become a meme in 2 months. I like it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. But anyway, how have you been? What have you been up to today?
Work, and more work. That's what my life has devolved into between working and then editing last week's episode. That's just what my day has been. Yeah,
you do such a good job on the editing.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it. I'm not too shabby if I do say so myself.
Yeah, you've picked it up quick. Yeah, I remember when you were asking me all the time, like, oh, my recording just stopped. Did it? No, it didn't. I don't know what's going on.
We're professionals.
We're professionals.
Can
you hear that? Is that picking up? I don't know. I'm getting a little, like, error message that keeps popping up. Oh, well, it doesn't seem to have stopped recording,
nothing.
So we'll just let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Sorry. I'm okay.
No, you're good. But yeah, like, editing's a lot of fun. Like, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really like editing.
It's very, what is the proper word? I can't think of it. It's one of those things where it's just, like, very
cathartic,
not soothing, but I guess relaxing, maybe.
Yeah. Therapeutic.
Yeah, like, it's just nice. It just makes life I guess, just seem simple for a minute while I'm just going through and editing all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a repetitive process, which means that you can just kind of switch off your brain and just kind of go through the motions, which is really nice.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, when I first started editing, I used to absolutely hate the sound of my own voice. But like the more and more I edit, the less I hear it as my voice. Like it just becomes sound.
Yeah, it's like, because that's one thing I've noticed, especially with editing this last episode. It's more or less like, I don't know who this person is. But it's like it's a job in a sense, to where it's like I'm doing this for somebody else, even though it's our podcast. It's like, nah, that's not my voice.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it doesn't even, like, to me, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't even sound like a voice anymore. It's just, like, just noise, and you just get quite critical of it, but not in a way that, like, offends yourself, you know? You're just like,
Exactly.
Oh, that doesn't sound right, let's change that. And, like, it doesn't end up, like, feeling, like, insulting, or, like, I'm just, like, because if you do that to, like, a picture of yourself, then you're like, oh, I feel really bad about myself now. But it's odd with the voice that it just doesn't become like that. You don't get critical of yourself in a way that harms your, like, self-esteem or whatever. It's just like, oh, okay, well, I need to change that.
Yeah, because it truly does, like, it just makes it sound better.
Agreed.
So it's like every little edit just makes it just 10 times better than what it actually is. Like, even just really simple things just boost the audio quality so much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Don't judge audio until you've put noise reduction on it.
Exactly. That is the biggest thing I can say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, what all have you been up to lately? Amine, that's a word. But, yeah, what have you been up to anime-wise, manga-wise, video game-wise? What all have you been getting into?
I have been obsessed with this manga. The 3rd volume has just come out, like literally like a couple weeks ago. And I'm not kidding when I was saying that I was looking at my bookstore website to be like, is it going to be in the store? Because like I live in the middle of nowhere in Canada. So I'm like, is it going to be here on the release date? Is it going to be here like a week after? Like calling the store, like when can I get my hands on this? Because it's so good. It's called The Magus of the Library. And it's about a young boy who is half elf, I believe. It hasn't really said much about his race yet, but he's like half odd. He's got pointed ears and green hair, and everyone else is like fairly normal looking in his village. And he's like grew up in the slums and had a really rough upbringing, and nobody really liked him because he was like odd and different. But he had this obsession with books, and he wanted to become a librarian because these librarians have like the key to books, and books kind of are like the power source in this world. It's like you have books, you control the biggest country, you know, like it's really like knowledge is power in this kind of environment. And it's about him wanting to have this position as a librarian, which normally only girls have, because girls don't really have many job options. They're just supposed to be like mums and stuff. So then this librarian was like one position that he could possibly get, that they could possibly get. And then he's going to go in there and be competitive with them. And it's like all about that. But then it's like him going in and meeting a librarian. It's about him going off to take the entrance exams and things like that. And the end of volume 2 left off during the exam. So I never got to find out what happened. And it was just like left on a cliffhanger. And I was like, what happens? What happens? What happens?
Gotta love the cliffhangers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So then volume 3 just came out. And I'm not kidding when I said I read it in 2 hours. Like, it's like 20 chapters, and I just sat there and I was like, read! And now it's gone, now it's done, and I have to wait until summer for volume 4, and I'm so upset. But, yeah, it's genuinely so, so good, and my brother, who's also a huge manga and anime fan, he gave it a read, and he also really, really enjoyed it. So, yeah, hugely recommend that one if you want just kind of a casual, fairly light story, and you have a love of books and magic.
See, I very well may have to give that a try at some point.
I do recommend it.
I haven't been much of a manga mood here lately, but my god, have I been watching anime.
Oh yeah, what have you been into?
So, I recently started a new one called Inspector. A friend of mine back home has been hardcore pounding me to watch it because she started the manga. She's like, you need to watch this, like, now. So, I've started the first couple of episodes. I would give a description, but I have no clue what's going on being 2 episodes into it. The most I can tell you is that one of the main characters is missing a eye and a leg
Oh, fun.
because the spirits took them from her because that symbolized that she is a god.
Right. Okay, then.
So outside of that, she can see these spirits, and the dude that she's going after can also see spirits, but the spirits are scared of him for some reason. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, it's something. It's really good. I like the animation style on it, but I can't give like any true thoughts on that because I'm just like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, next podcast you'll have to give us an update on how that's going for you.
I will definitely give an update on that.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I've been rewatching Food Wars because I've gotten one of my part-timers into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been
making him watch no Sama is so good. It's so good.
Oh, it's so good.
It's definitely not an anime that I would recommend to someone who is just starting in the anime world because it's full-on anime. But I would recommend it to someone who's kind of a veteran and hasn't make that jump to go watch it. The first season is very fan servicey, but it's also just funny. There's so much funny content, and also don't watch without snacks because you will get so hungry.
You will be very hungry. And also, do not try to attempt the recipes at home. Some of them work out, some of them do not. Yeah,
one thing that worked out really, really well in it that I found out was that onions and pineapple have enzymes in them to break down meats. So if you put them like over pork and stuff to stop your pork from getting like really chewy, you put them down and you marinate it in the onions or the pineapple like overnight or something, and then you cook it the next day. It will like help break down the pork and make it really like soft and like slicey. And this is coming from a vegetarian.
And you see, the one that worked for me was where he marinated that roast in honey.
Oh yeah,
and it like made it really tender.
Yeah,
and like that worked out extremely well. Like I had no clue how it was going to turn out, but I made it in a crock pot, and it just turned out so good.
That genuinely sounds good. I wish they did more like tofu dishes because I'm always running out of ideas for tofu. I'm like, how do I make it not taste like a mushy blob?
Mapo tofu. Just cut out the meat. Just make it super spicy.
Yeah. Tempura.
Aha. But then outside of that, binge watching stuff for future episodes, and I think that about covers it, other than, making my part-timers watch like 1 or 2 episodes of a show just to get them hooked on it and for me to rewatch it and refresh my brain.
Yeah.
But also just to taunt them because I'm like, here's an episode of a really good anime, and I will never show you any more. You have to go home and watch them yourself.
Yeah. Good luck with that Crunchyroll subscription. Okay, I guess we ought to kind of jump into it, though. We've kind of been rambling for a little while. Rambling Jackson. That was such a stupid joke.
Okay, but... so to go into the news for the week... So, more anime events have been canceled due to coronavirus concerns in Japan. However, the Japanese government has stated the Olympics will still happen, and U.S. officials over the NCAA and NBA for basketball, for all of you non-American folk, have stated that their athletes will still compete in the Olympic Games.
Yeah. Yeah, the Olympians I follow, there's a couple of them that I follow. Tom Daly is a diver from the UK who's kind of like super famous and everything, and they're all still training hard for it, keep going as they're going. So I genuinely don't think that they will cancel the Olympics. I think they might put some restrictions out for, travel and tourism, that kinds of stuff, but it would be an absolutely massive hit to the economy if they did cancel the Olympics, and the last time they cancelled the Olympics was because of World War II. And that was the only other time that it was in Japan. So I really don't think that they're going to cancel it twice.
Yeah, I don't foresee them doing that.
No.
And also, I just, like you said, I expect them to start taking precautions. Like I know with Major League Baseball here in the U.S., like reporters aren't even allowed in the locker rooms during spring training. Like it's literally like you can go to a certain area and they might give voice calls or something like that for statements. But outside of that, you're not allowed in the locker room. You're not allowed near the players. Like just keeping everything as safe and sanitary as possible. Yeah, that's the best thing to do. And just for you guys out at home, the best thing for you to do to keep yourself fit and healthy is to wash your hands properly
with soap, and try not to touch your face or like any orifices that lead to internal organs without A, washing your hands first, and then B, washing your hands after as well. So yeah, keep yourselves clean and you should be just fine.
And especially if you are the kind of person to shake hands, just always wash your hands afterwards, just in case, because you never know where.
Yeah, wash your hands before
what that
you
person
eat.
has touched.
Yeah, I wouldn't also, things like, I know that Starbucks and Tim Hortons here in Canada have use of reusable cups in like their drive-thrus and stuff. I don't know if that's across the board for all businesses, but I wouldn't recommend maybe using a reusable cup in case the person that is handling money and like the cash register and stuff like that also then touches the lid of your cup and then gets that dirty and you end up drinking that and everything. It could just end up to mass cross-contamination that way. So yeah, try not to go for the reusable cups. And I'm a huge environmental person, so that's super annoying right now. But yeah, it's just better to keep you safe. And again, with like fruit bowls, candy, anything like that's kind of left out, either wash before you consume or go for something that's packaged.
And then, but here's the thing. So this is an anime podcast, so we can go off on this rabbit trail for a second. Why don't we just go back to bowing?
Yeah.
Like, that just makes life so much simpler.
It does, yeah, no touching. And that's the thing is that, it was never really a part of American or Canadian culture, but it was definitely a part of European culture, and not too long ago. I mean, if you think about it, 100 years ago, 200 years ago maybe, 150 years ago, curtsying and bowing was still a thing. And it's only very recently in history that has become not so much of a thing anymore, which is kind of nuts.
You hear that, American people? We need to go to this. Like, it will make life so much simpler. You don't spread germs. And also, it just looks cool, and it just seems very respectful. So we should do
my grandma
this.
taught me how to curtsy when I was little. Gran.
The most I know how to do is say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's about it.
my grandma...
It's about as respectful
my
as
grandma
life
was a pretty... traditional woman when it came to, like, she was not traditional when it came to, like, women working and stuff like that, but she was traditional when it came to customs. So, like, elbows off the table, you have to sit with your back straight. You wait until everyone has sat down and received their meals before you start eating. Whoever is the head of household, once they finish their dinner, then dinner is stopped. Like, everyone's finished then because the eldest has finished. And yeah, she taught me to curtsy and my brother to bow. All sorts of things like that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's nifty. Did not know that.
She was a pretty cool woman, farm woman. She has stories from had stories from the Second World War, where she was a young child on a farm, and these women who were taking over the positions of the men who had to go off to war were coming to the farm to help with like the cows and the sheep and all of that kinds of stuff. And they had lived in the city, and because, of course, there wasn't the internet or anything, they lived in the city their entire lives, and they didn't actually know that milk came from cows. They didn't know. They didn't know where it came from.
That is amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about it, there's like no TVs in the house, there's no internet, there's no, like, I mean, you're not going to read a book on where milk comes from, are you? Like, go to the library to rent a book on that? Like, no.
Yeah, but there's also, like, there's probably still people like that today. Like, they just don't know or are just ignorant on the topic.
It's like, that, was it Jamie Oliver or Gordon Ramsay? I don't know, some English chef went around, they're Gordon Ramsay Scottish, sorry, Gordon, went around to, I think it was American schools, and took a bunch of raw vegetables and showed them the vegetables, and kids didn't know what a potato looked like in its raw form or what, like, a cucumber looked like, because they'd only ever seen it, like, sliced or chopped up or whatever, and hadn't seen it whole, so they didn't know what it actually looked like. I mean, of course, they were children, obviously, so hadn't gone through to experience that part in life, but that was such a foreign idea to me when I first saw that episode, because I always went with my mum shopping, grocery shopping when I was little, and always helped out in the kitchen, and always, was involved in that process. But nowadays there are so many restrictions on, like, children in the kitchen, children not touching ovens, children not doing this, not doing that, that they don't learn when they're young, so they have to learn when they're an adult, and then going to college is this whole bigger experience than it was 20 years ago, because you've kind of been bubble wrapped all the way up until that point. So then you go to college and you don't even know what a potato looks like in its whole form,
And that's, like, I don't know. Like, because I was raised very similar to you in that, grew up in the kitchen, so learned how to cook and all that. So I guess it just seems foreign to me that kids these days just don't know how to do that.
Yeah, it's very strange to me. But of course, that is probably kind of the exception to the rule. I think most kids at least know basics, and then there are going to be a handful of kids, obviously, that grew up with, like, parents that get them involved in cooking as well. But, like, even when you see, like, kids that are involved in cooking, it's, like, cookies, and they get, like, the Pillsbury Doughboy, like, pre-made cookie dough.
Ones where you just, like, peel them off and just slap them on a baking sheet.
And it's like, we did some baking. It's like, no, you didn't.
You did good.
You did good. You opened a package and put it in the oven. Good job.
Or you took your microwavable macaroni and you put it in the microwave. I am so proud.
Oh my god! In middle school, I took home ec class because I was like, "Oh, I love cooking. Let's take it." And it was my first year in Canada, so I was like fresh off the boat, 11 years old, and we learned how to make Kraft dinner macaroni and cheese in home ec class, home economics, and I was like, by this point, I knew like how to make a Victoria sponge cake recipe by heart, pastry by heart, how to make a roast dinner by heart. Like, these are things that I just knew. And I was like, you're teaching me to cook by telling me how to make Kraft dinner macaroni. What? I was so confused.
What is
this? I never took it again.
You peasants are beneath me.
Yeah, I never took it again. And I'm actually quite upset that I never took it again, because then you started to go into like sewing and stuff afterwards. And I would have liked to have learnt that. But it really, really turned me off the subject, and so I took other ones, because I was like, this is a waste of a semester, I'm not learning anything here.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess we should go back to talking anime. Tangent. Bunny rabbit.
But it needed to happen.
We bunny hold off.
So, yeah. So, Radwimps, the group that did the soundtrack for Makoto Shinkai's film Your Name and Weathering With You, have announced a world tour, and they are going to be having dates in the US, Canada, and Mexico.
Fun.
So, may have to go, because I absolutely adore the soundtracks to both of those films. They are so good.
Yeah, I wish... world tours tend to not stop off anywhere near where I am in Canada. I wish they did more, because I'd love to go and see things like that. But you never know. While I'm in Japan, maybe I'll catch a show or two. We'll see. Yeah.
You should. Like, if you go to a Lisa show while you're over there, we may have to end this podcast. The jealousy will not be able to be contained at that point.
Don't worry, I will stuff you full of Japanese snacks when I get back. Do it.
Send a postcard while you're at it.
I'll send a postcard. I'll get you some authentic Pocky, and it'll be a fun time.
Yes, that's what I need in my life. Okay, so other random tangent while we're talking about Pocky. So Dunkin' Donuts back home, because I went back home over the weekend. They, for this season, came out with a matcha latte. So the first one I got a couple weeks ago was delicious, amazing. The one I got this past weekend, literally the worst thing I've ever drank in my entire life.
Lovely. I love that.
They put way too much in it, so it literally tasted like I was like filleting a fish with like just the very, very slightest aftertaste of Pocky.
That sounds disgusting.
So it was like raw fish umami flavor.
Hey, you want to drink a fish?
All of it. Yeah, it's like, do you want to drink raw fish?
Gross.
Here you go. Like, didn't even taste like coffee. Like, it was so bad. I was like, how do you screw it up that much?
Oh, that's really gross.
Oh, it was so bad. But yeah, tangent. So, moving on. Funimation will be screening the first 3 episodes of Fruit Basket's second season in select U.S. theaters on March 30th, dubbed, and 31st, subbed.
I haven't finished the new version. I got like halfway through the season and then got distracted by something else and haven't gone back and finished it. I need to.
I've seen 0 of Fruit Baskets. Not the original, not the new. I've seen absolutely
I haven't
nothing.
seen the original. It was recommended to me by a couple friends to watch the original, but by the time I started to like look towards going to watch the original, that's when the new version came out. And I do really enjoy the new version. I'm upset that I haven't finished it because I should have. But I guess life just got in the way or whatever. But I do definitely need to go back and finish it. I think I've only got a couple of episodes left. But it is really good and I do very much enjoy it. I haven't seen the original though. So yeah, I need to watch this one, watch the second season, and then go back and watch the original.
We should totally do that for a series, just so it gives us an excuse to sit down and watch it.
We could do a old versus new comparison. Yes.
Yes, I'm totally down. So Food Wars has gotten its first key visual and the air date for the 5th plate. Its official air date is April 10th. So
that is exciting.
That's exciting.
Yes.
Presuming it doesn't get pushed back, because ReZero, which is our topic for today, it has been pushed back to July due to coronavirus issues.
Yeah, well, it's because most of these studios that make these animes are so small, and they're like in a massive building with a bunch of other like things, so you see like the teams of people, and you quite often see the same names popping up for like producers and directors and stuff. You'll see them like jumping ship between a bunch of different animes and mangas and light novels and all that kinds of stuff. You'll see them all over the place. And so I feel like it's a kind of a small community in the fact that it is a large community, but with small pockets. And so I feel like because everyone's mingling in with each other, if it hits one area, it is very likely to spread to the rest as well. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, very quickly. So, that's unfortunate, but hopefully everyone stays healthy. Food Wars continues on as planned, because I know you and I are both
I'm
very excited for that.
For the next season. Really, really stoked. But Japan has been doing so many good things in precaution-wise for the coronavirus, so I think that they're going to get a handle on it pretty quickly, and it's also a huge benefit that they are obviously completely segregated from the rest of the world just geographically, so they can really contain it pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it makes containing it very simple.
Yeah, I just worry for the
Netflix
higher elderly population that they have, so yeah, hopefully they can contain it before it spreads to those guys.
Yeah, because that seems to be the one group of people that's most affected by this. Like adults with healthy immune systems are able to fight it off. Kids apparently can't even get it. They're just carriers for it.
I didn't hear that. That's new. Ooh,
so it's the elderly.
I didn't know.
So yeah, the elderly are the people that need to be
elderly and immunocompromised are the guys that are unfortunately the ones that are getting hit with it the worst. Because like it jumps from like if you look at the rates, it's like 0.2% for like age 20 to like 30, and then from there it steps up, and then from there it steps up, and then by the time you're like 60 it's like 12%. So yeah, which is same.
Then Netflix will be adding the Violet Evergarden OVA Eternity and the Auto Memory Doll special on April 2nd. So I don't know if you've seen Violet Evergarden, but it is beautifully crafted. I absolutely adore everything about that show. I cried a lot. Like one episode in particular, like I ugly cried. It was that bad. Like, like even thinking about it now, I'm tearing up a little bit. Like it just hits the heartstrings so hard. Like it's so good. So I'm so excited for the OVA.
Yeah, any new content of a show that like really grabs you like that is good in my book.
Absolutely. And then Kaguya-sama Love is War has also unveiled its first key visual and its release date for a second season as well. It is set for April 11th.
Lots of good stuff coming out soon.
So, April is going to be massive for the amount of shows that it has coming out. I'm so excited.
Me too. So much work for us, though.
Does it really work, though?
Yeah, can you count this as work? Does this count as work? I don't think so. This is just play.
No, I can't count this as work because this is so much fun. I'm so glad we decided to start this. This just it just makes life so much more
me too.
enjoyable.
I don't know. It's like it's great being able to properly sit down and discuss things that you have a massive passion for in any kind of fashion. But the fact that it is about something that is just so like emotional, not just in like emotional sense, but also in like happy and like sad and like exciting and like I don't know, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's like emotional to us in the fact that like anime means so much to us, considering we both spent over 2 months of our lives apiece.
Yeah, I think nearly
anime.
6 months combined between us for like anime, manga, everything. Like our lives, probably about like a half a year between us spent on this kind of subject.
And that's so much, but it's so worth it. It's worth every
Who needs a life? What is outside? Have you ever been there?
Outside of going to work? No.
Outside is dead to me.
Which is unfortunate because swimming season is coming up and your boy probably won't be getting to swim.
Just watch Free. You'll get the motivation.
So much to do.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. Or that anime about jet ski girls. Watch that one. That'll just get me enticed to go swimming or buy a jet ski.
Or just find a girl. Yeah.
You know what? You're right.
You can't do the jet or the ski. Find the girl.
Exactly. 10 out of 10 life advice. And the last piece of news I got, the My Hero Academia Heroes Rising film has opened at number 1 in the U.S. box office on February 26th, earning over $2.5 million on its opening
Deserves
day.
it.
It 100% deserves it. And the film at present has grossed over $10 million and now sits at number 8 of the highest grossing anime films of all time in the US.
I'm glad that more and more anime is being shown in cinemas, and just like more platforms are available to be able to view it and that kind of stuff. You're getting more competitors, because like before, like Crunchyroll was the only place that you could find it. And then Funimation started streaming what they did for their dubs as well. And then now Netflix has even a pretty good group. I don't know. What's the category? I don't know. Genre.
Yeah, Netflix does. Hulu does as well. Like, Hulu has some dubs that are specific to it that nobody else can get their hands on, which is interesting.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Disney releasing animes that are kind of like more softer on theirs as well, on Disney Plus. It wouldn't surprise me.
Well, Disney owns the rights to all the Studio Ghibli films, so it wouldn't surprise me if they start uploading those to Disney Plus, although that may be a while, considering I think Netflix just got the streaming rights from Disney to be able to play all those, and that's available literally everywhere else but the US and Japan. You know how silly that is. Like, us, I get it. Like, okay, just don't give it to us, even though Disney's the one who owns it. Whatever.
Japan?
But Japan,
I know.
of all places, cannot watch it on Netflix.
I would assume that the reason why is because they've already contracted to some other company, and so, like, Netflix can't get the rights there, and not that they chose not to. I don't know, though.
I have no clue either.
Yeah, definitely.
However, good on them. Just get a VPN or something if you want to be able to watch it.
Or just, vacation in Canada. It's a fun time.
Aha! So, listen, I'm going to need to crash on your couch.
I'm going to need to crash on your couch. That's okay. Yeah, you can.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
Well, I mean, we have Canadian-sized couches, so you'll fit.
What is a Canadian-sized
I feel like every time I've gone to America, the couches are so short. I don't know why, but they're like 2 inches shorter than couches in Canada. And so you go to sit down and they always feel like too low. Maybe it's just me, but like I sit down on a couch here. I'm a tall bean, for those who are listening who don't know. I sit down here and it's just like, it's probably like a pretty perfect right angle, maybe a little bit lower. But in America, I feel like my knees are under my chin.
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so used to the way couches are here that it doesn't bother me. But also, I'm more of a recliner person, so I try to stray away from couches.
Do you have a reclining couch?
That sounds like a thing that needs to happen, because you have the ones that have like the little pulley sides on them, but you don't have them that can just like automatically sit back. That I know.
I think IKEA does some, because IKEA does everything. Everything. Yeah.
IKEA does do.
Can't go wrong with IKEA.
No, absolutely not. Or like Costco or other like big box chain stores.
Everyone's been buying toilet paper out of our local Costco. Apparently they restocked at 9 a.m. the other day and was sold out on toilet paper by 11 a.m. So in 2 hours.
So
no,
and that doesn't make sense. Like, I realize that it's a virus.
But how quickly do you go through toilet paper?
Like the hand sanitizer. Yeah, like that makes no sense whatsoever, and especially at Costco.
They had to put a limit on two like things. I don't know, packages of toilet paper per purchase, because people were like trying to buy like 70, and they were just like, what are you going to do with that much? Because I think it's like 6 rolls of toilet paper in one Costco pack. Like, what the heck are you going to do with that much toilet paper?
It literally makes no sense. But it's the same here with like 3M respirators and whatnot.
No.
Like, those will not save you from this. Like, the most you're going to do with that is keep somebody else from getting sick. It'll keep you from spreading.
Well, I actually heard, I don't know how true this is, so, don't take I'm not a scientist, okay? Just disclaimer. But I heard that hand sanitizer doesn't really do much for the virus, because it doesn't actually remove the virus from your hands. It just kind of like paralyzes it. Whereas washing your hands with soap, because of like the fatty lipids or whatever, the fatty enzymes in the soap, like connect onto the virus. And then when you wash the soap down the drain, it like pulls the virus with it, so it actually gets rid of the virus, as opposed to just, like, nullifying it like a hand sanitizer would do. Science. Yes.
Science. I like it.
I am so science.
I failed science, so this is
I really
not
like
for
science.
me.
I just can't, like, study it, because I'm so bad at, like, sitting down and, like, reading a biology textbook or whatever. But, yeah, I know, I do enjoy science when I hear it like that. It's fun. It's a fun time.
See, you can keep the science. I'll just stick
I
with
used
math.
to like math until I had a
Math
really
is
bad math
easy.
teacher,
Math
and
is
then I was
simple.
like, ugh, no thanks.
See, I had a really awful math teacher, and I got her twice in a row. I got her for Algebra
Ugh.
1A, and then I got her for Geometry. So that
Your
was garbage.
your classes are really
However,
weird.
like every other math teacher that
Algebra
I've had is
1A
great.
and what was the other one? Geometry? Yeah, I don't know.
So,
Name your
geometry?
classes weird in America.
Oh, I mean, for high school freshmen, or at least for us, it doesn't make sense as to why, but we had to take one semester of the first half of Algebra 1, and then our spring semester was the second half of Algebra 1. I'm like, why? This
In
makes
Canada,
no
I think our
sense.
curriculum was grade 9 algebra, geometry, grade 10 was probably more algebra, grade 11 was pre-cal, and grade 12 was also pre-cal. Big brain.
Yeah, Canadians, big brain.
Yeah, no,
America's
we
small
definitely
brain.
taken pre-cal classes before you go to university.
See, like for us, our senior year, we had an option of
Oh,
pre-cal
yeah. Grade 10 was trig,
trig,
that's what it was, yeah.
or statistics.
Yeah.
And I
Statistics
went
was a
the
fun time.
statistics route because,
Probability
and stuff
has no
interests
memory.
me.
That's why if you're at a slot machine, just because you've hit the cherries 100 times in a row doesn't mean you're not going to hit the frickin' crown this time. Because, has no memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wraps it up for news.
Should we dive right in?
So
Should we dive right in?
we get into our topic? Because I am
Me
so
too.
excited to talk about this. I have been ever since the idea of a podcast was brought before me, and this was back whenever Dakota and I were doing what we were doing. Like, I've wanted to do a podcast on this show because ReZero is in my top 3 anime of all time.
It's
I
good.
adore it
So do you want to
much.
give us a quick summary of the anime, as you're the expert on this one and were the one who pitched the idea for this one? So if it goes wrong, it's Brad's fault. Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't like this anime, it's Brad's fault, okay?
Right now. Yes, just blame me. However, I can assure you, you'll love it. But yeah, so ReZero, Starting Life in Another World, is an isekai setting where your typical teenager gets pulled into another world. However, this time, dude doesn't die. Like, I know it's weird for an isekai anime to have that sort of setup, but no. Subaru does not die. Instead, just gets teleported over by some mysterious force at work that you find out later on in the show. So he gets pulled to the world. He's a shut-in NEET, so therefore he knows about this kind of thing going on. He immediately thinks, I'm going to get all these badass powers. No.
Right.
Absolutely useless. Makes a fool from himself. However, very quickly finds out that he does have a power. It's essentially a Groundhog Day power where he can die and come back to life. And it's at a certain checkpoint. It's never made clear what the conditions are to clear said checkpoint throughout the show. But yeah, it's just essentially die and come back as many times as he has to, I guess, accomplish his overall goal for the show. And that's essentially the best overall summary I can get without getting into spoily bits, because this show constantly just goes. It doesn't. I don't know if you felt like it had a lull the entire time, but I did not. I felt every episode had its own
watched the whole
meaning.
thing and I just couldn't turn away. It was there wasn't a downtime, there wasn't a break. It's such an emotional roller coaster. That's what I was reading when I was reading the reviews about the show, is that it is such an intense emotional roller coaster. You're going from the happiest, most excited, oh my god, this is amazing, congratulations for the characters, this is amazing, to 30 seconds later, everything is wrong and it's horrible and it's you're crying and it's such an emotional roller coaster. You cannot get bored while watching this show. If you get bored while watching this show, you haven't been paying attention, because you just can't. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, like it goes from 0 to 100 real quick, and it does not let off the gas the entire time. So here's the biggest question.
I did cry. I kept a cry counter. I cried twice.
We're not going to talk about mine. Because it was more than 5.
There were quite a few times when I was like getting teary, but I only counted the times when tears like actually ran down my face. I guess you could kind of say 3, but I didn't count one of them because I was laying on my side, so it's like easier for tears to escape. So I was like, that's why. But yeah, like lies. Lies, you cried. It was 3. Put the 3 counter on the screen. This is totally a podcast, so we could put the 3 counter on there. Yeah. But yeah, it's so good. I absolutely adore it's genuinely such a good show.
And we'll get into, like, there's one talking point that I want to bring up, like, once we get through all the spoilers and everything. But there's one talking point to where I feel like it'll be worth mentioning because it was a point to where I cried. And it was like the first, like ever since I watched it the first time, whenever this came out in, I think, 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016. And man, like it's just one point in the show that just stuck with me. And going through, because I watched it through the second time for this episode in English. And for one, I will say the English dub, fantastic. Like, it was really good. I only have an issue with one of the, like, voice actor choices. It was the one for Puck. But, I mean, that's just a very, very small complaint. Like, the voice actor who did Puck was phenomenal. It's just, for me, it didn't necessarily fit. But, yeah. So, a little bit of background information on the show. The first season began airing in April of 2016 and wrapped up in September of the following year with a total of 25 episodes. The light novel was written by Tape Nagasuki. It began serialization of April of 2012 and is still being written to this day. The manga began serialization in June of 2014 and is still being produced to this day as well.
Yeah.
So I know you did a little bit.
Yeah, so I just kind of looked at how the manga was broken down, because, of course, there's the light novel, there's the novel, and then there is the manga. The anime is based off of the light novel, but what I found interesting is that the manga actually switches both publishers and illustrator for the second chapter. So it's split into 3 chapters. Each chapter is like a segment of volumes. So chapter 1 there's 2 volumes, in chapter 2 there's 5 volumes, and in chapter 3 there's 11 volumes. But the first chapter, A Day in the Capital, is published by Media Factory, and illustrated by Daichi Masuse, I think. I don't know, sorry about that. Matsui. There you go. Matsuse. I can't speak Japanese, that's fine. And then chapter 2 was switched to Square Enix to be published by them. And then was illustrated by Makoto Fujitsu. And then for chapter 3, they went back to Media Factory, and then Daichi Matsue picked it back up again. So I just thought that was interesting that, I guess for the chapter 2, for the second volume, they even changed the magazine that it was published in. It was a completely different group of people that were doing it, other than the author who still wrote it, but like the illustrator was different. So if you're reading the manga, if you decide to read the manga, let me know if you notice a difference in illustration between chapter 1 or chapter 2 and then back to chapter 3 again. Because, yeah, not only are they like a chunk of time apart, they are also illustrated by different people. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing. Yeah.
But it's also like a really weird thing to do. Like why switch publishers and switch
I would assume it was
and then go back? I don't think I think of it as maybe they were just really busy.
Maybe they just offered a better deal to the author. It was just like, hey, we'll purchase it. Like, contract ran out, we'll purchase it for this much more. And then they realized how successful it was for chapter 3, and they wanted to repurchase it back and repurchase the rights.
Because you said Square Enix produced the second chapter, right? if they saw how popular it was, I find it
Yeah,
really odd
yeah.
for Square Enix
Yeah,
to
I
sell
know.
something
It
back
must have been
at
some
that
kind of
point.
negotiational thing, or maybe the author is like slow at producing work or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Might have been a provisional basis or something. Yeah, which that very well could be the issue as well, because I mean it's taken 4
Hmm.
years to
Yeah.
get the second season. And to my knowledge, like this show like took off in
Yeah.
both Japan and here whenever it came out. So for it to be
Hmm.
that popular, for it to take that long, I find that odd. But then again, it could just be an Attack on Titan situation of you got to wait ages for the second season, or a lot of it too could just be it's a small studio that done this. Like White Fox, the studio that did it, has not done a lot of like
Yeah,
major
agreed.
works.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because I think this was their
Success.
first like big like production, but outside of that, they've also done Steins Gate and Akame ga Kill, which I've seen.
I have
neither
seen
of those.
some of Akame ga Kill, but yeah, I never finished it. It's interesting.
I have absolutely zero input
Yeah,
on that
it's-
because I haven't even looked up trailers. Like maybe I should have, maybe I should have done my homework, but I'm just like I've heard absolutely zero. Steins Gate, I've heard some of.
Mhm.
I have the visual novel on my phone that I've done like 5 minutes of and then got bored of it
Akame
really
ga
quick.
Kill, I would describe as interesting. Yeah. So then for
Very
reviews of the anime, I just grabbed a couple of the most common ones that are in our kind of circles. So Anime Planet gave the public rating was a 4.4 out of 5, which is really good. Crunchyroll gave it a 4.6 out of 5. IMDb gave it an 8.33, and IMDb gave it an 8 out of 10. So yeah, pretty solid ratings all across the board. With Crunchyroll.
So I think it sits at an average of like 8.6.
Yeah. Crunchyroll gave it a super high rating of 8.6 out of 5. And that was like over 1 million people had done the rating on that or something, like if I can remember correctly. So yeah, it was a solid lot of people had rated it. And I genuinely agree with those ratings. I think it's fantastic. I think that isekai genre is very oversaturated. There's a lot of competition in the isekai world, but I have never watched an isekai like this.
I haven't either, and that's one of the things, because although this was one of the anime that I started watching like after I got back into it, and now at this point in my like anime lifespan, I've seen a lot of isekai, and even newer ones. Like it still doesn't hold up to what ReZero is. Like it was a fresh take on the isekai thing with the Groundhog Day capabilities, and it just, I don't know what I expected going into it, but everything was just blown out of the water by the time the end of that first 45-minute episode was over.
Yeah.
Like it just shattered all expectations. Completely. And so the anime was directed by Masaharu Watanabe. He has directed Naruto Shippuden and The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and has also worked in the animation department on the original Naruto and Toradora.
Interesting.
And the sound director, Kenichiro Suehiro, has done work on ReZero, Cells at Work, Fire Force, Goblin Slayer, and most recently has done work on the Darwin's game, which I'm really interested in actually sitting down to fully watch. I've watched half of the first episode, but then I think I got busy at work and haven't sat down to actually watch more of it. But apparently it's a like Hunger Games with magic type anime, so that immediately has me interested, because although I'm not a big fan of the Hunger Games, give it to me in anime form with magic, I'm in.
Yeah, I didn't mind the Hunger Games. I thought they were okay. They got a lot of hype that I think was maybe not so well deserved. I don't know. I enjoyed them. I didn't love them. Yeah.
I can agree. Like I don't know anything about them, but I think it's because they were just that much overly hyped to where I was like,
yeah, I've read the trilogy twice.
No, I think I'll pass, fam.
The second time I actually enjoyed it more than the first time, but I stand by my original thinking of that I think the second and third books were rushed. And I'm not sure if that was like by the publishing house wanting to get the author to like pump them out. The first book was so successful, like get the second and third one out. But to me, the first one was really, really well written and constructed, and then they just kind of went downhill, and the ideas kind of got mushed, and like they needed to be a good editor and more time put into them because it kind of got blurred together. But anyway, that's a separate story. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have just been
What were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I don't know. It's gone.
Gone.
It's into the ether, just poof, gone forever. But yeah, so that takes care of all the background information. So
just
do you want to
quick
go over the show?
before we hop into that, I did actually find out, this is from Wikipedia, so you can't guarantee how solid this information is, but apparently there's a visual novel based on ReZero.
Yes, I think it came out on the PS4 and Vita, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think it's been translated
PSP,
into English,
maybe?
so if you are a Japanese speaker, it's ReZero Starting Life in Another World, Death or Kiss. So, yeah, if that's something that you are interested in and you can get your hands on, you'll have to contact us and let us know what it's like, how it is, because neither of us can read or write or speak Japanese.
So, listen, I'm going to need you to get me a copy of this while you're over in Japan, if you don't mind. I will give you all of the monies if you can find me it, because even though I'll never have the opportunity to play it, I want it. I need this in my life. I need as much ReZero merch as can
well, I am planning on hitting up some
possible.
secondhand game shops and things like that, so we'll see what I can find. Yeah!
Arigato.
Okay, so the actual episodes. So this is where I'm going to chuck on the spoiler warning for you guys who don't want to know about the actual ins and outs of the show. If you want to watch it, explore it for yourself, and then come back and listen to this after you've seen it, now's the time to run away! Run away!
Yes, run away! Run,
Pillage,
screaming.
all that fun
Pillage,
stuff.
all the fun stuff.
Okay, so the first episode is called The End of the Beginning, and like Brad previously mentioned, it starts off with our main character, Subaru, who is in a convenience store, in a konbini, and he is looking at manga and just like living his best life, being a NEET. And he all of a sudden has like a glitch in the Matrix moment. His vision starts going all funny. And he blinks, and when he blinks, he wakes up in your kind of typical RuneScape, you know, kind of elves and animal people and all those kinds of things type of world. And he has officially been isekai'd into a whole nother world. And because he is a NEET, he is like, oh, well, I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to end up with all kinds of crazy superpowers, and I'm going to be the hero of this world. And there's going to be some big villain, and I'm going to defeat the villain, and I'm going to then live a good life of rich and gold and surrounded by women and etc., all that jazz. That's not what happens, though. He tries to use magic, it doesn't work. He tries to figure out if he's rich, and he is not. He tries all of that typical stuff, but it just don't work for him. And he ends up with no money in a back alleyway somewhere, just trying to figure his way around and see what's happening. And when he ends up in this back alley, he runs into a trio of thugs who actually appear quite frequently in the anime, so yeah, they're returning characters. And he ends up figuring out that he's actually decently strong, but just because of the fact that he was like working out while he was like in his hibernation in his parents' house. So he's like, he can punch, he can throw a punch, but he's also not like, he doesn't have any kind of superpowers backing it. He could just throw a solid punch, you know? But yeah, there's three of them, and one of them has a knife, so they end up overpowering him. When this blue-haired girl or silver-haired girl comes out of nowhere, and well, actually, first of all, this like little girl, this little like blondie, runs through, and like they think that she's going to interrupt or is mad at them or whatever, and she just like runs on by. And then this silver-haired girl comes up afterwards and is like, "Hey, you who stole what it is that you stole, give it back." And they're like, "We didn't steal anything." And she's like, "Well, then who took it?" And they're like, "Well, this like blonde girl just ran by." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go find her." And then like almost goes to like run off and just leaves him to get beaten up. But then she doesn't. And she saves our hero Subaru, and he falls in love with her right off the bat. He is smitten. And then you find out that she's actually a spirit user. She gives him the name Cetalia, and she has a spirit friend who I can't remember the name of right now. Puck! Thank you very much. Puck. And then the thief girl, you find out her name is Felt. There is a her that looks, him that looks like a her, but isn't in this. Yeah, but we'll get to that later.
We'll get into that later.
And that is episode 1A. It's just pretty much that. So technically there are 25 episodes in the anime, but it actually breaks down to 26 when you watch it on like Crunchyroll or whatever, because it splits up A and Part B. So then the second episode, or episode 1B, is Cetelia saying where she knows where Felt is. They kind of team up. They go to the pub. They find an old man. He ends up being in pieces. I don't know, the anime's quite graphic. And it does gore.
Yeah, this show does gore. Like, don't want to say it does extremely well,
it's
but
intense.
for what it is, like, it goes ham on the gore.
Yeah, I would
like,
compare
no
it
punches,
to something like
but
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood on level of gore. Yeah. But yeah, so then he enters the pub. Did I read everything about? Yeah, I did. Yeah. So yeah, Cetelia enters the pub, trying to figure out where Subaru went to, because he's the one that went in to try and find whatever it was that Cetelia had lost that was stolen from her. And when he finds the pub guy all torn to shreds, and she wanders in after him. Then a woman comes in and slices them to pieces as well. And this is where we reach our first reset point. And in the very beginning of episode 1A, and this is one thing that I thought was so clever about the anime, was this callback, was in the Matrix flashbacks very, very early on, probably within the first 5 minutes of the first episode, when he's going through that Matrix scene, getting pulled through, you see this clip of these two hands, and you hear this voice, and it doesn't really sound like his voice, and then there's this woman's voice, and you don't know who this woman's voice is, and you hear them, and you see this, like, image of these two hands, or, like, one hand reaching out towards another hand, and then that is the moment that you see, again, the first time that he dies, and his first reset point, and it is powerful. That is such a powerful moment.
And not only that, but like the animation of it, like also like harkens back to how the OP for the show goes. And I meant to bring this up in the beginning before we actually got into the spoilers, but what did you think about the OP and the endings for the show? And are you an OP and ED kind of person? Like, do you care about
I'm probably
the
not
intro and end cards for the show?
Involved with them as I know a lot of people are. A lot of people like absolutely love them. That is like their bread and butter for when they watch shows. Like, they will download the songs and stuff like that. And I'm not one of those people, but I do definitely, like, for me, I can tell if one's good because I won't skip it, you know? Because I'm a huge skipper. I am a master at, like, getting the exact time of how many seconds it is in, and, like, knowing that bar and, like, clicking it. Like, I am such a good, yeah.
Like a minute and 30 seconds is typical for every show. But this, like, I always make it a habit of watching the
agreed.
OP and end title card at least once. And one thing I will say that this show does well is that some episodes it won't even have one or the other, depending on what's going on. Like, it's a master of deciding when to put where, but also the animation and the way it stylizes everything for how it presents the death scenes and everything. It does a phenomenal job. Anyway, continue.
So then this is when Subaru finds himself back at that food stand that he was in when he first got isekai'd. And he finds himself, there was a crying girl who whose father ended up being the person who ran the food stand. And Subaru, he's like freaking out. He bumps into the three thugs again because the guy at the fruit stand didn't remember him. And he bumps into the three thugs again. They have no memory of him. He beats them up. And then he's like panicking because he believes that Cetelia is dead. He doesn't know if she's alive. He doesn't know anything about that. Like, he just has his memory of like getting sliced to pieces, and then all of a sudden he's back at the food stand, and he gets. So he runs to the pub, and he's there during the day because obviously, like, the day hasn't passed for where he met Cetelia, and they went on their adventure together, and then they decided to team up and then go to the pub. So he runs there and he decides to wait for Felt, who is the girl who stole the insignia, which is, you end up finding out that was what got stolen. And Felt comes and she says that she's got another buyer for the insignia, and she's going to sell to the highest bidder. So Subaru offers up his phone, which he shows the camera feature of, and they believe it to be incredibly valuable. Basically, like, it stops time for a second and captures that moment of time. And the other buyer comes in, and Subaru's phone is deemed of a higher value, so he wins the insignia. And then all is pretty much well until the woman goes, oh, the rival buyer, she goes, oh, what are you going to do with the insignia? And he's like, oh, I'm going to give it back to its rightful owner. And then basically all hell breaks loose. And she's like, he's with them, and creates a very like us and them moment in that second. So she kills the pub's old man, she kills Felch, she kills Subaru, and he finds himself back at the fruit stand. This time he spots Citelia, and he runs after her, claiming that he doesn't know what happened, but he's glad that she's okay. And the episode ends for episode 1B with her responding, basically, I don't know who you are, but how dare you call me the name of the jealous witch. Dun, dun, dun. And that is kind of your introduction into this anime. It is intense, it is insane, it is like gory, and I don't know, but yeah, that is like the first full episode is and the first 2 deaths of Subaru. Should have yeah, I think we could probably count them as I go through, because I did write notes on every episode. So but I don't think maybe I wrote down every death, but it gets to the point where there are so many deaths that I don't know if I wrote them all down. We'll see. It doesn't get repetitive.
One thing that I will say though is that it doesn't like each death doesn't it doesn't get repetitive. Like every time there's meaning behind it, and you can tell like he does not want to die. Like every time he struggles, like the times where he can actually choose whether he dies or not, he does not.
I feel like a lot of animes could have taken the direction of him sacrificing himself for a restart, and he, like every single time. And there are moments in this show where he considers it, and he really, really thinks about it. But I think there's only one time in my mind that I can think of where he actually went through with it. And in that case, he would have been killed regardless. It was... There was at least once, but there was a couple of times where he asked for it. But like, again, with reason. Like, they didn't just like... He wasn't just like, oh, everything's going to kill me. It was like, I am not going to live, or I am going to kill 100,000 people, so you need to just deal with me now. So, the second episode is called Reunion with the Witch, and it's basically, starts off in the same situation where we were on the previous episode, with Citelia yelling at Subaru in the street from what he called her. I equated it to Voldemort, because it kind of is, like, no one will say the name Citelia, no one will, like, even say the name witch, like the word witch is, like, a word that you don't say. And the fact that he called her that in the street was clearly very upsetting, not just to her, but also the people around in the town. Subaru chases after her, but he ends up bumping into the thugs again and gets himself killed this time. And he respawns back at the fruit stand and then pieces everything together that he's living a new life every single time. It actually took him quite a few deaths. That's one point it was very frustrating, being like, how do you not see that this is a new life every time that you have respawned? It's a whole new, like, moment. You've gone back in time. He didn't for, like, three deaths. But it...
I think I kind of gave it a pass, though, just because that would have to be traumatic. Yeah. So I think it probably didn't click just because of that. But, yeah, it does kind of get like, dude, come on, piece it together, man.
I never got as frustrated with this anime because, like, so many animes you watch and the main character is just so clueless and you're just like, oh, come on, like, pick it up. Like, what are you doing? But in this one, that was the most frustrated I felt. And it wasn't really that frustrated because of the fact that so much other stuff is going on in the anime. And it, like, the trauma is incredibly evident with him throughout the anime. Like, this is, again, not one of those ones where it's like he experiences PTSD and then gets over it in 5 minutes. This is one where he, like, everything adds up and he ends up, like, fucked up from it as time goes. So he decides that he's just, like, this time he's respawned, he decides he's just not going to worry about it, you know? So Talia's going to get her insignia stolen, she's going to go to the thing, she's going to die, he doesn't even give a shit, he doesn't know her, he doesn't, like, whatever. So he sells his phone, he's going to go and live a happy life with all of the money that he got from his phone. But then he gets really sad and scared and when he's, like, thinking about everyone that's going to do crazy bitch. So he decides, you know what, I'm just going to go and help. And he ends up bumping into her in the slums. And she says that she can smell fear. And Subaru ends up going to Felt's home instead of to the pub to buy the insignia, but she won't sell it without the approval of the old man because he's like an appraisal, like, artist. person. Like, he knows how much things are worth. So he's like, okay, but we have to do it before it gets dark. So when the deal is nearly complete, Felt gets suspicious because Subaru is wanting it all done so quickly. And so just as we think that the crazy lady is going to come through the door opens, but it's actually Satelia. Credits. And also at this point, Subaru has met a redheaded dude when he like bumped into the three thugs that time. Because my notes are just like redheaded dude because like names aren't really introduced all the time when like a character meets the other character. They don't always mention their name. You find out the name later down the road. So as I was taking my notes episode by episode, sometimes like I'll come up with the names like 4 episodes after they've been introduced as a character because I'm like, then I catch the name and write it down. So quite a lot of these are just going to be like grey-haired girl, red-headed dude, yellow person. Like that's the way it works. So then episode 3 starts with, basically, it's just a massive fight. Episode 3 is just a fight scene. And it's just intense. It's, so redhead, the crazy bitch ends up, her name's Elsa, by the way, like the, like, queen, like, let it go, I'm gonna slice you up and spread your guts. And yeah, so, oh yeah, she's like known for being like a gut slicer, like that's her like special move or whatever, is like she'll just like slice open your stomach and your guts will spew out all over the place, and that's like, oh my god, I love guts. That's that's kind of her MO. So then everyone becomes friends, except for Guts Lady Elsa. She buggers off. And the redhead, whose name you decided was Reinhard. Okay, there we go. He takes them all to the castle, but he sees Felt, and he's like, "Ooh, who are you? How old are you? I want to know information about you." And she's like, "I don't know. I just grew up in the slums. Like, I don't know who I am." And so he's like, "Oh, you're coming with me. Go to sleep." And he like hypnotizes her asleep or whatever he does. Picks her up and runs off with her and gives Stalia, or who is still believing that's her name, back her insignia. And so then, but like at the end of the episode, you figure out that Subaru has actually had his guts sliced open in the last second. He was like standing there for like a 5-minute conversation, just like all happy as Larry, and then looks down one moment and his guts like on the floor. It's quite funny. But so he ends up surviving. And when he wakes up, he's actually in the Roswall mansion, which brings us to episode 4. So Subaru basically wakes up in a fancy bed, healed, and walks through a large manor. He bumps into Drill Lolly, who ends up being the librarian of the manor.
It's a perfect description. Beatrice is very much drill-haired Lolly.
Yep. Beatrice. And then the twins, who are Ra and Ree, is that
Rem
it?
And Rom.
Rem and Ram. Rem and Ram. I can speak. And the Lord, who ends up being the most powerful magic user in the kingdom. And you also find out that Beatrice, the librarian, is not human. And so you find out. And Satelia, who's now Amelia, is relieved, and then it's found out that she's actually in line for the throne, and because the current bloodline kind of went missing / is dead, like question mark around the current throne bloodline, so they're basically trying to find candidates, and then there's going to be like an evaluation to figure out who is going to be the next throny dude. Or dudette, I guess. And so then Subaru ends up, they're like hanging out for a few days, and it's a good time, and they're like in the manor, and they're having such a sweet time, and it's such a sweet episode, and then he successfully asks her out on a date, and then he wakes up back as a guest, Matrix style. He's dead. How did he die? We do not know. So then episode 5, is Subaru wakes up and he freaks out finding the librarian, and he finds the librarian, and she doesn't remember him, except for the fact that she'd like messed with him in the morning, not like, yeah, she had just, like, teased him or whatever. And then he tries to retrace his steps, but everything is different now. This is where I put in capital letters in my notes, unnecessary dick sound effects. And
to be fair, I don't remember this happening, so I don't know where Blue is getting this from. Perhaps my memory is faltered. I don't know.
It was so subtle, but I was watching it, like, at probably, like, 3 a.m. And it was so quiet in my house, and I had my laptop playing, and it echoed around my room just because of how quiet everything else was. So basically what's happening is the Lord of the Manor is, like, standing, he's naked, obviously, and Subaru is naked as well. Subaru's in the bath, and the Lord is going to join him in the bath, because it's, like, an onsen, a shared bath. He's going to join him in the bath, but they're having a conversation, and Subaru turns around to face the Lord, and his head is, like, perfectly blocking the Lord's private parts, and the Lord starts swinging his hips from left to right while he's talking, and they added in sound effects.
I don't recall the sound effects, but my God.
I was sitting there, and they were having a conversation. It's just, like, in the background of the conversation that you can hear this noise. And I was like, they didn't do that. No, I'm hearing this wrong. They didn't do that. Oh, yeah, they did. Oh my God.
That's fantastic. Like, I'm gonna have to go after this episode and just go find it, because I have to know now. Like, how could I miss that? I watched it through a second time for this in English, and they don't take out that stuff for the English dub, so I gotta find it now. I have to know.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, it's episode 5. Episode 5 in the bath, in the onsen. The Lord's sound effects are there.
So what did you think of Roswell, by the way? Like, as a character, as a whole?
I was expecting him to be more crazy than he was, because he is kind of crazy, but I was expecting him to be more crazy. The way that he's kind of appears and shows up. But I think that's actually kind of good, because in contrast to the people that are actually crazy, he seems quite ordinary, but also distinctive.
Yeah, he's a very distinct person in the show. And as he should be, but my God, he's a wonderful character. He is one of the, he's a breath of fresh air in the show, for sure.
Yeah, agreed. So then, he works at the manor, same as he did last time, gets a job at the manor, and manages to get a date with Amelia. The credits roll, and then Subaru is murdered during the night. Episode end. And this is when you first see the, mace, and you're like, oh, okay, well, like the medieval mace, not like the spray, like a giant ball with spikes on it.
He died by pepper spray.
Yeah. So then episode 6 is The Sound of Chains. The day repeats, but Subaru lives as a guest rather than working at the manor, this time because he's like, I'm going to live my life in luxury, I'm going to try and figure out who is doing all of this behind the scenes, and I can't figure out who's doing everything behind the scenes if I'm working all the time. And he ends up getting really, really close to Ram and Rem while he is working at the manor, because he's making good friends with everyone that's in the manor. He tries to mention that he's going to be killed on the 4th day, but he can't ever speak about the fact that he's going to be killed. That almost makes him almost going to get killed, so he can't actually talk about the fact that he's going to get killed. But he ends up sharing with Rem a story from Japan of the 2 ogres. If you don't know the fairy tale of the 2 ogres, it's a popular Japanese fairy tale, where basically one ogre wanted to be, the 2 ogres were really good friends, and one of them wanted to be friends with humans as well. So that ogre decides to, so then the ogre that doesn't want to be friends with the human decides to attack the village people, so that the other ogre can go in and protect the village people and make it seem like he's a hero, so that then he can be friends with the other village people. And then when they do this, then the ogre that went to go attack them ends up getting really, really lonely and feeling really bad. and so decides to leave and like writes a note on his door so that then when the other owner, Ogre, goes to check on him, basically the note just says, you're so happy with the human people, I can't be around you in case they get scared of you because you're around me, so I don't want to impact your friendship with them, so I'm just going to leave. And it's like this really sad story of like the ogres. It doesn't have a happy ending. So he shares this story with Rem and Rem, with Rem, but not with Ram, because Rem says don't tell Ram about that. And then he also learns of the story of a dragon that once made a pact with the royal family. And now that the royal family is gone or dead, the dragon doesn't have to remain like away anymore and can like come and be powerful and dragony. So descriptive. So then Subaru decides he's going to leave the manor on the 4th day, only to be attacked in the forest outside by none other than Rem. Episode end, and it was like really sad. And that's probably the first time that I cried in the anime, was like figuring out that it was Rem. So then episode 7 is Subaru is terrified and hurt when he wakes up in bed again, because he's like, so like it was like he was so close with Ram and Rem that like the fact that she was one to attack him was like heart-wrenching for him. He stays bedbound until Beatrix comes to check on him, where he makes a contract with her for protection. He survives until the 4th night by hanging out in the Forbidden Library, but finds out that Rem actually died while she was asleep from weakness. So Subaru jumps off a cliff to try again, but like there's more to it than that. That's a very quick summary.
Then let me just say, like, that's where I cried the first time.
Yeah,
like,
that's where I've written cry count, so yeah.
Yeah, and also with and again, like I know I talked about earlier how the English dub is stellar. Both were just beautiful at portraying just how pissed off that Rom was with like Subaru, because she's like, how can you know what's going on and yet you won't tell me? Like, why did this happen? Yeah. And just, it's so good.
It's so good. Yeah, because, like, obviously, like, Subaru knows everything about, like, the day. He's lived through it multiple times by this point. Like, he knows what's going on. He knows that he suspects that it's some person that is using magic to get to them in their sleep. Like, he knows all this kinds of stuff. And she's like, how do you not know? Like, how do you know? Yet you can't tell me where it all came from. And like, how are you not involved? Like, I don't know who you are. Because in her mind, she's only known him for, at that point, 4 days. But to him, he's known her for, 12 days? Like
16 at this
16?
point?
Yeah, he's known her for a lot longer than she's known him. And yeah, it's very powerful. So Subaru ends up waking up in the manor, and he works at the manor with crazy enthusiasm, and he is like intense. Like, this is where you can see that he is not okay, but it does it in a way to where he is like so happy and excited and stuff that you can just see how broken he is. And he soon discovers from Puck, who's the spirit from Amelia, that he is a shadow magic user, which doesn't actually really pop up much throughout the anime. I expect it's probably going to pop up more in the 2nd season, but in this 1st season, it only kind of shows up a couple of times. And he uses his magic, but because he's never used it before, he like expels all of his mana all at once, and then ends up getting really weak. But he keeps going back to work, he keeps pushing himself, and eventually he ends up making himself sick. And Amelia takes care of him. I put in quotations, lap pillow here.
Yes, the lap pillow. The lap pillow is the goal throughout the entire show, just lap pillow.
Honestly, yeah. His live stream is to acquire lap pillows.
But he gets the lap pillow from I think just about everybody except for the one person that he really wants it from throughout most of the show. Yeah.
And he ends up like really breaking down here at this point, and you get to see him like really like just let it all out of his system.
The next morning here too, so that would be 2 for me.
Yeah, I think that's a second cry for me as well. The next morning he asks, I think this is where my sideways tear comes in. The next morning he asks to go shopping in the village. a day early, as he thinks the curse is coming from there. He figured out that it wasn't the twins the first time that they went after him, because he smelled like a witch, and then I put I think the witch is the dog, which I was correct about. So yeah, I predicted that. So basically what I mean by that is that he went to the village while he was like helping out the manor. He was working there as a butler. He went to the village, and he thinks that is where he's picking up the curse, because Beatrix, who's been asking her about it, and she was saying that you have to be in contact with the person who gives you the curse. Like, you have to physically touch them. And if you don't physically touch them, they can't give you the curse. So, and he figured out that because Rem died in one of the versions of the times that he went back, she is not the only one that is out to get them. So clearly in the one situation she was, because he smelled like the witch, but you don't know why that triggered her to want to kill him. Yeah, then you also figure out, because she ended up dying in a different version then, that the witch is probably in the town, especially considering as that time he didn't work at the manor, he stayed as a guest, so then she had to go into town rather than him, so then she would have been the one that came into contact with the witch. So, that is where the episode 8 ends. Episode 9, The Meaning of Courage. It was the witch's dog, I put an exclamation mark. Subaru went to the village to get everyone to touch him and basically curse him. And he got everyone to touch him in a different part of his body, including a creepy old lady who touched his butt.
I'm
butt
sorry,
touch.
continue.
And then he went to the librarian who healed the curse, and when she healed the curse, like, the black ooze came out, and it showed that it came from where the dog bit. Subaru then went to the village with Rem to stop the villagers from getting hurt, and that's when they discovered that children were taken. They found them in the forest, but one girl was missing, so they went to go and find her, but when they went to go and find her, they ended up being attacked by giant dog creature things. And then you figure out that Rem is a demon ogre person creature, what? And Subaru's dead, question mark, because it kind of leaves on a, like, you don't know if he's dead or not moment. And that brings us to episode 10. I'm kind of running through these quick because there are a bunch of episodes, so yeah, keeping it going. Fanatical methods like a demon. Subaru wakes up in the village, hurt but alive. He soon finds out that he has been cursed again, but deeper and irreversible this time. So he didn't actually die from the previous episode. He wakes up in the village, in like a village hut, and he's all good, but like has been healed, and Amelia is fast asleep on a bench because she was the one that healed him, and she's super drained. So he finds out that he has to actually kill the being that cursed him to be able to reverse the curse, but he was bitten by like a large pack of dogs, so he has to kill a lot of dogs. So yeah, then he ends up running into a large pack of giant demon dogs, but Rem has already left to go and kill them because she knew this, obviously, and she felt so guilty that he got hurt that she like went crazy and went off to go and find those dogs and get rid of them. But Ram, her twin sister, goes with Subaru to go and find her. She has lost control of her demon form. She's lost control of her ogre form. She is going wild. And then Subaru goes to like bonk her on her horn because apparently that will like reset her back to normal. And I thought that he was going to cut off her horn at the end of this episode.
Yeah, that's what they make you assume.
Yeah.
And then you come to find out, like, that's a hard no.
Yeah, because, like, I don't know if that was intentional. They tried to make you think that he was gonna cut off her horn, or if that was just kind of like a mistake.
Well, it's like later on in the show, they make it think, like, instead he didn't even hit her at all, and she, like, came to her senses whenever he, like, went flying down on her. It's like she snapped out of it. Mm-hmm. But it's never fully explained. Yeah,
I feel like that's probably my biggest quirk with the anime, is that moment. Because I think they could have done like a trick thing where in the beginning of the next episode you see him like more like, I'm gonna cut it off, oh, I didn't actually need to moment. But like there wasn't that moment, so it was just like you think that he's gonna cut it off and then he just doesn't. And you're like, oh, okay. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, it was weird. That was my one critique on this, was that moment. Yeah, so they end up killing up all of the dogs, but then well, they don't quite kill all the dogs, and he kind of gets torn to shreds a bit. But Lord Roswell comes home, and everyone is fine. Rem and Subaru have a heart-to-heart, and then the episode ends with Subaru successfully asking Amelia on a date. Subaru also uses shadow magic for the first time during this episode in combat. Episode 12 is Return to the Capital, so they basically go back to the capital to fight for the throne. The fight for the throne begins. Subaru goes against Amelia's word. This was just like, oh my god, Subaru. Like, but it was like, oh my god, Subaru, what the heck are you doing? But it was also like, you can see how just, I mean, you die like 20 times by this point, like you're going to be messed up. And this is where you really, really, really start to see the long-term effects of the trauma that he's been receiving.
It's like he's got it in his own head, like only he can protect Amelia just because of his ability. And it's just messing him up. Really.
Yeah, it really messes him up. And it takes him a long time to get out of it. So then you find out that the 5 candidates for the priestess are to fight for the position to fulfill the prophecy to face the dragon. And this is when you find out that Felt happens to be the last one of the 5. Felt was the girl who stole the insignia in the first one that then the red-headed knight ended up carrying off. He ended up carrying her off because he realized that she was some kind of like missing person that was like taken. And you don't really know much about that. Like that really doesn't get explained yet. But yeah, you figure out that she was some kind of like missing person and she's actually now a candidate for the throne. Episode 13 is Subaru is probably proclaiming that he is Amelia's knight, and he basically insulted the knights that were there. This was cringe. This was cringe. There was basically a fight where he insulted the honor of the knights, and he was challenged, and he got his ass beat. I
was going to say, to be fair, you call this a fight. That was not a fight at all. No. That was so bad. Yeah. Julius just...
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it, like, it was an absolutely trained knight for generations and generations, who's a spirit user, who's got a sword, who's, like, had all of this experience, and then just, like, a regular kid, just going up against each other, and Subaru is so in his head at this point that he can't even think clearly. Like, he clearly got beat and should have stepped down and didn't and made it so much worse for himself. And it's just like a heart-wrenching but also really embarrassing, and you just feel for him because you're just like this, like you're just watching it just going, I hope it resets, I hope he dies, because I don't want him to remember this. Like, this can't be part of his legacy, this can't be part of how everyone remembers him. Like, no, reset, just kill him in this fight, you know?
And I think the show did that deliberately too, because it's like, it's the one time that you actually want him to die in the show. Like, this is the one past that you want erased.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah. They don't. Like, even his reset point is not yet. He hasn't come across his reset point. He is just living this. This will always be a part of Subaru, unless in the next season they decide to have his reset point go right back to the beginning again, which I highly doubt. But yeah, this is still part of him. Amelia and him ended up having absolutely massive fight, and he couldn't explain. He can't talk about the fact that he can die and reset, and she doesn't understand why he's got this affinity to her. He doesn't understand why he's got this attachment. She doesn't understand why he says that she saved him, because obviously the first time that he died, she saved him beforehand. But then, of course, he died and it got reset, and she doesn't remember that she saved him because she got reset. So she doesn't know why he has this connection to her, but it was because she was the first nice person that he came across in this world. But she has no memory of that. And this is where you can really see that that's really confusing her, because he's lived, weeks over and over and over and over again. So to him, he could have been in this world for 6 months, but to her, she's known him for like a month max, you know? Because of the amount of times that he's relived things and reset things. And this is where you can really start seeing this impacting her and him. And so she ends up deciding to go back to the manor, and he stays behind in the capital to recover.
we interrupt your regularly scheduled podcast programming to bring you this special news bulletin coming to you live from the BnB Anime Studio. Here is Editing Brad.
Hello everyone, this is Editing Brad coming to you from the future. Ooh. Anyway, I'm sure you're wondering why we stopped your episode short. Well, we were running just a little bit long, and the gods of anime decided to come down and destroy our studio because of the random dick noises that apparently I didn't believe in. Also, my recording may have screwed up a little bit, so really sorry. However, we will be back next week with part 2, and part 2, everything kicks off even more than what it has already done. So, thank you all so much for listening. Blue and I greatly appreciate it very, very much. You can follow us at BnB Anime on Instagram and Twitter. You can find this podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and bnbanime.podbean.com. You can follow Blue on Instagram at BlueLavenderSTM. Same thing with Twitter. And you can also find her on Twitch streaming Monday through Saturday at twitch.tv/Blue Lavender with an A. You can follow me on Instagram at Brad Carter Gaming, and you can also find me at twitch.tv/Brad Carter Gaming. So, thank you all so much for watching. We greatly appreciate it, and we will see y'all next time. Bye-bye!